Hello everyone, Sientu here, and today I want to talk about how I got into some of my favorite games. So these are going to be ones that have more interesting stories. There are definitely games that I like that don't have interesting stories, but these ones do. So I'm going to go ahead and start with, we'll start with Guild Wars 1, which is on screen right now. And the way that I got into this game kind of requires a little bit of setup. So, oh boy, this has been a while ago now. I got into the game, for reference, kind of late summer, early autumn in 2005, the year it came out. And the way that I got into it was a friend that I had made on warboards.org, which was an old, Blizzard associated forum. When I say Blizzard associated, what I mean is, it was for, StarCraft and Warcraft and Diablo. And I hung out in the StarCraft boards because I had gotten into StarCraft previously at a summer programming camp that I'd gone to. And it was there that I encountered StarCraft. I really liked it. I got into modding it. And then one of the friends I made through the modding messaged me on Google Talk and was like, yeah, and this was back when Google Talk was its own separate program. This was back before everything was an app. And a friend talked about an area in this game that he just played, and I'm going to go ahead and play some footage of it right now for you. So he talked about walking by this stage area, this theater, and what you can see with it is here's a theater, and it's an actor stage and stuff. And then what he really talked about was post-searing Ascalon. And he talked about how it was ruined and how you could see the stage tilted sideways and stuff, and it was just amazing and awesome. And the way that he talked about it, and just this bit of seeing this area in post-searing Ascalon and the destruction that had been wrought, and you should have seen some footage of it. And all of that is just really interesting, and that's what got me to start this game and to start playing this game. And it's a favorite game of mine. It's probably one of my favorite games of all time, at least currently. Up there with games like Breath of the Wild and Magic the Gathering, which I'll be talking about in a moment. But yeah, so that's how I got into it. It's kind of this weird chain of things, but it's interesting how word of mouth is really powerful. And that's kind of what we're going to see through all of this is the power of word of mouth. So the next game that I'm going to talk about is actually Pokemon, because I've listed out these, and this is the order that they're in. So, Pokemon game franchise. I got into it, actually, because some friends in elementary school, this was probably, 4th grade, to give you some frame of reference, Pokemon cards had come out, and my friends were kind of getting into it. And I started getting into I decided that I would pick up some Pokemon cards to be able to play with them. Fun fact, at this time, I did not understand how damage counters were supposed to work. We were given glass beads in with the Pokemon cards. I feel like they came with them, if I'm being honest about my memory, as I think it came with glass beads and it's use one to represent 10 damage, another to represent 30 damage. I don't know why I didn't use dice, but so my brain was a damage counter is this physical object. And so I would see the glass bead as this glass bead is a damage counter. It wasn't an abstract concept like it's supposed to be, but it was an actual physical concept. So when I read a potion removes 2 damage counters, well, there are 2 types of damage counters. There's the 10 damage counters, and there's the 30 damage counters. So if I let my Pokemon get 60 damage on it, I could remove all of that with one potion because I'd remove 2 damage counters. And anyway, it's just kind of interesting how my brain worked at the time. But anyway, so it was through getting Pokemon cards, that I got into Pokemon. And I got them. I wasn't actually interested per se. I was okay, I'll get some to play with my friends. And that's how I ended up getting into it. And I've enjoyed Pokemon tremendously ever since. Looking forward to Sword and Shield and seeing how all that works. Okay, so that brings us to the next one, which I mentioned earlier, which is Magic the Gathering. So I didn't get into Magic until college, and it was there that I saw people in the cafeteria playing it during my freshman year, and it is a small school, and so people would play Magic there, and I would watch them play, and I was I kind of want to play card games with people too. I tried to to play Pokemon cards with people. That didn't really happen, which is fine. So what ended up happening is I basically watched people play Magic the Gathering for like my entire freshman year, and it was in my sophomore year that I started getting into it myself. And watching people play it for a year had apparently taught me the rules. So I learned to play Magic by watching people play it in the school cafeteria for like a couple semesters, basically. So it's kind of funny, but that's how I ended up getting into Magic the Gathering, was watching people play it. And that's how I ended up learning to play it too, which I think is probably an unusual way of learning to play it. But anyway. And then the last game that I wanted to talk about was Dark Souls. So at this point, I really like the Souls games, but I didn't really know what they're about, and I was kind of intimidated with the first one. So what ended up happening, I remember distinctly, actually. So I went over to a friend's place. I saw some people playing it. Didn't know what it was. Wearing big hat, Logan's hat in Anor Londo, wandering around fighting Silver Knights, but farming, I believe. Was what I saw. I'm recounting distinct imagery that I remember seeing at the time. But the friend got me the Prepare to Die edition on Steam, and I didn't touch it. I just didn't touch it. And then I was into watching Let's Plays from Something Awful's Let's Play subforum at the time. This was many years ago. Apparently, as an aside, Let's Play has changed meaning since then, which I have discovered. But I watched a Let's Play by Geop, which was a blind but guided Let's Play. So it's his first playthrough. He didn't know anything coming in per se, but he had some people there to assist him, to help him find secrets that he had overlooked, help him with controls, stuff like that. They did a really good sort of balance of involvement and not being too heavy-handed with it. And so it was by watching that Let's Play and seeing what the game had to offer that I felt comfortable enough or interested enough to get into actually playing it myself. And I really enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed the series quite a bit ever since. So anyway, that's kind of my stories. I thought it'd be interesting to talk about. Hopefully you found it interesting. And what you can see through all of this is like the way that encountering stuff through like word of mouth things, like none of these were through advertising or any of that sort of thing, is word of mouth and other people sharing these games with me that I connected with them, which is interesting. And these are some of the games that have ended up being my favorite games too. So anyway, until next time, everyone, take care. Bye-bye.